Scots is part of Ahan you did in Selkirk. Is that an important way for you to connect with the community, which is quite a broad Scots speaking area?
Aye, definitely. The borders, when I grew up on the west coast where there is a Scots speaking community, but there's still for me anyway, there's a social stigma attached to Scots in the west coast that you didn't get in the north east so much, you didn't get in the borders so much. And so it was a real epiphany for me to move to the borders and to find that the Scots that I'd been speaking and been embarrassed about speaking all my life was the norm. You know, when you get Eastern European folk coming to Scotland or to the borders to make a better life for themselves, it's Scots they learn, no English. And so my poetry is my voice and my voice is the Scots voice. I had to do it in Scots, even if it hadn't been the right thing for the club. I had to do it in Scots, and it's turned out to be the right thing because it's all about linking up with the community. It's all about representing, to me, the most important folk at the club, the fans, the folk who'll be there in 20 and 50 and 100 years' time. And the fans in the borders, they use Scots. Scots is still the lingua franca of the borders, and as far as I can see, I always will be.
You're going to be performing the day at Belladrum.
Aye.
How much is performance a part of what you do as a...
It has to be now. It has to be. I think Jim and Stephen would both agree that the days of somebody, you know, and Emily Dickinson being able to write 20 years worth of poetry that nobody kens about and then publishing it after she dies and then becoming lionised, that doesn't happen now. I can't think offhand, and Jim and Stephen would probably be the same, a single poet in Scotland that isn't a performance poet by dint. They haven't to get their work out there. That's how you get it out there. It's a hard sell to get folk to read poetry. It is. It's a slightly easier sell to get folk to listen to poetry. And one of the big things, attractions for me, for the poet in residence at Selkirk, and I'm sure Jim and Stephen will say the same thing about their respective clubs, is that it opens up a new audience to you. I've got to speak to ordinary folk, ordinary supporters who maybe aren't poetry fans or didn't ken that they were poetry fans. I've got to speak on TV, on radio. I've got access to different kinds of folk than you do as a performing poet. You know, it's great to perform to other poets, but we're all trying to break out of that. We're all trying to break out of this community and make it a national thing rather than a wee inbred thing that it can all too often be.
Your partner is also a poet. Now, she's originally from England. She bides down the borders.
Right.
She started screaming Scots poetry and all. First of all, tell us about that process. And second of all, I want to ken how it is that somebody that's no for here gets the confidence to learn Scots and use it.
It's not easy. Sarah, my wife, is from Yorkshire, like you say, and she's always been a screever. She's always written, and she's always been a brawmaker, but she's always written in English. And when she first came to the borders, like I say, Scots is intrinsic to her culture in the borders. It's no something that's tacked on. It is what we are, and it's impossible to come to the borders and no learn it. And so there's no social stigma. There's no you're marking yourself out as for the wrong side of the tracks. Everybody in the borders uses Scots. You can't no pick it up. Sarah started to pick it up for folk in the street, for me. She started to read poets that I was in correspondence with, you know, she read writers that I kent, like yourself and Matthew Fitt and Ashley Douglas and James Robertson, and she started to see the beauty of the language. She started to see the value of having, just at a basic level, mere words for things. So she started off in a small way, just, you know, ever setting some of her weird poems into Scots and then building up the confidence to write her own poetry in Scots, which, and I didn't just say this, is far superior to anything I could screeve. She's a fantastic poet and she's gonna go places. But you've highlighted confidence, and confidence is a big issue, I think. As a lead, we desperately need folk to feel like it's a lead that they can learn and they can use with no stigma attached. We need folk, French folk, English folk, Lithuanians, Latvians, Polish folk. We need folk to come here and learn Scots and use Scots and feel that it's their lead. It's not something that they're culturally appropriating. And I think, to be honest with you, those of us who were lucky enough to grow up with a good Scots tongue of our own, that should be your first priority, making sure that anybody else that sees our Scots and hears our Scots and wants a bit of it for themselves is able to do so.
It's a great message to end on, Tam. Pleasure. Can't wait to see you perform the next time.
Cheers very much, Ali.
Cheers, man.